welcome to our master session, specifically talking about the MELP program in general. My name is Nasser Abdel Fattah, and I'm an admissions counselor here at Vermont Law School. It's so nice to all have you here today for this hour. With me today is our Director of Admissions, Katie Merrill. We also have our Interim Director of Graduate Academic Programs, Ann Linhan, and one of our current students, Kelt Wilska. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. So just to get started, I just want to show you a picture of Vermont in general. So this is our background, snowy little town of South Royalton. So just to get started, I wanted to ask you guys that we have a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, you guys are welcome to send them there, and our team will work on answering those questions and fielding them. But to get started, I just wanted to ask you guys, the MELP, environmental law and policy, that is such a broad topic, and there's so much that we can talk about. But if you guys would like, if you guys can just put in the Q&A what you guys are interested in, just so that we can see a general interest of what everyone is into. And Katie, would you mind sharing what people are saying? Awesome.
I started with energy equity. Environmental justice would be some of the areas of the environment that I'm interested. Of course, then I'm also interested in recycling, waste, cleanup, watersheds, but I don't know. Oh, I think is environmental and energy law overlap. Come on, guys. So we're broad. Food and agriculture, food safety. Always laugh. And you remember back in a couple of years ago in the summer, on Fridays, we had like global energy, global food security, and then global energy crisis. And I used to tell students when they come to campus, I'm like, okay, what would you like today? Would you like our energy crisis class or our food security crisis class? Which topic would you like? Organic regulations, food systems, natural resources, earth jurisprudence, sustainable energy, some good stuff, sustainability. Wonderful.
Great. Thank you guys so much for sharing.
International trade and policy, creating more sustainable food systems.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's great. Personally, I have an interest in water law myself, so I'll share that. And we'll get started by having Ann share and talk about the MELP program in general. Ann is probably one of the most knowledgeable people here on campus when it comes to our programs here, being here for over 20 years now. And so I'm going to stop sharing, and Ann will take it from here.
All right. Thank you, Nasser. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Ann Linehan, and as Nasser mentioned, I'm the Interim Director of Graduate Academic Programs at the law school, and I'm also the Associate Director of the Environmental Law Center. And I've been at VLS and in the Environmental Law program for almost 25 years, which is pretty crazy to think about. And a big part of what I do at the law school is that I'm an academic advisor for students in our different environmental programs, including the MELP. So I'm going to give you sort of a general overview of the academic program, and I encourage you to jump in with questions so I can be addressing the things that you want to hear about. But first, just let me talk about the basic structure of the program. So I think pretty much most of you are thinking about the residential MELP program as opposed to the online program, although we can talk about both, and students certainly take classes in both modalities. So we have students who are mostly residential and they'll take a few online classes, and students who are mostly online who might pop in the summer and take a couple of residential classes. But I'm going to talk about sort of the structure of how the residential program works to give you a sense of it. So the MELP is a 30 credit degree, and right off the bat, there's a quirk that students can actually take up to 36 credits, and there's no additional tuition for those extra 6 credits. So you need a minimum of 30 credits, but you can take up to 36 credits, and that's nice because it gives you a little more room to sort of stretch out and take advantage of electives or externships, those kind of things. We do, of course, have some required courses that are part of the degree. So all MELP students need to take a class called Legislation and Regulation Survey, which is a little bit of an introduction to law school and sort of how agencies work and some administrative law. And then they've got a required course called Communications, Advocacy, and Leadership. We call that one CAL for short, C-A-L. And that's going to be a lot of writing. The idea is to give you the type of real world assignments that you're going to have after you graduate. So it's things like a public comment letter, or a Freedom of Information Act request, or mounting an advocacy campaign, that kind of thing. So those are the types of projects that students do in that class. And then the third required class, not at all surprisingly, is environmental law. So those are the three required classes. And then we have a number of core categories. And so we want to make sure that you're a well-rounded student. So we have these 5 different core categories, and students have to take classes in at least 3 out of those 5 core categories. So to give you a sense of what those are and sort of the diversity of the curriculum, the categories are environmental science, environmental economics, environmental ethics, natural resources, and dispute resolution. So basically, in your little MELP world of 30 to 36 credits, you're going to have 3 required courses, 3 core courses, and then the rest of it, so sort of the remaining half of your credits, are electives, and that's where you really get to play and explore and take elective classes or participate in the clinics or the research teams or externships, and really dive in and sort of customize the program to the things that you're interested in. And
We might have lost Anne.
Yep. Oh.
So that's a fun fact. Anne lives pretty. Oh, there you are, Anne. We just lost you for one moment.
Okay, where was I?
Environmental
talking about
ethics.
specialty.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Am I back? All right. Sorry about that. That's part of life in Vermont. I'll have you all know that. My husband and I live off the grid, about 20 minutes from VLS. Our house is solar powered, and so it's just a different little challenge in life, and internet isn't always 100% high powered up here. Okay, so let me talk. I talked about the required courses and the core courses, and let me delve into the fun stuff, the electives, and that's where you can really start to specialize and customize the program to your own interests. So, you know, I saw all the different interest areas popping up in the chat, and so if you're, you know, some students come in and they're very interested in a specific area, and that might be energy or land use or water policy or animal law, or, you know, on and on, international environmental law, pollution prevention, sustainability, ESG, you know, just all different areas. And our curriculum is so big, we have about 60 different environmental law classes. So if you're interested in a topic, chances are good that it's not just going to be one class that we have in that area, but that you're actually going to find several classes in a particular area so that you can really delve in and get yourself a nice little specialty. But I also want to say that I know from talking to lots of prospective students that it's okay if you don't know what you're interested in just yet, and you don't have a specialty area in mind. Some students really do, and some don't know for sure yet. And there's also room to sort of do a buffet approach and see what's interesting to you, and take an energy class and take a land use class and take a food and ag class and see what grabs you. The way the MELP residential program is structured, in your fall and spring semesters, you've got the required courses and some room for electives, but sort of some foundational classes, and you're building towards the summer session, which is for most residential students, that's your last semester. And that's going to be a series of the more advanced, really focused elective classes. And so that's, you can be sort of building up to that in the fall and spring semesters. And then when you get to the summer, you can really start delving into these specialized elective classes. The summer session, I think, is a real highlight of the environmental program at Vermont Law School. We have, it's a series of short, intense classes. So unlike in the fall and spring, where you're taking typically 4 classes at a time, in the summer, you're taking just 1 class at a time. So it's really intense and focused. You're in that class 3 hours a day, 4 days a week for 2 weeks. You're completely focused on environmental governance or animal law and ethics, or whatever the topic is. You really get to focus hard on that one topic. And in the summer session, most of the classes are taught by adjuncts who are practitioners. So they're coming to us from the real world, and you get a chance to learn from these incredible people. So environmental crimes class is taught by the head of the environmental crimes section at US Department of Justice. She comes to us for 2 weeks and you get to learn from her. So it's just this incredible experience. And often the faculty who are teaching these classes have actually been involved in the cases that they're talking about. So it's just, it's a real highlight of the program for students. So that's kind of the range of courses that we have. Now let me talk a little bit about the different hands-on experiential opportunities that we have. So we have a number of things that you can do on campus for credit towards your master's degree. We have a number of different clinics and all different kinds of clinics. So one of them is our environmental advocacy clinic. And that's a litigation clinic. So when you think about law school, that's probably the type of clinic that you're thinking about. And it's real cases, real clients, they're suing people, and there is a role for master's students. So most of the students in that clinic are pursuing a JD degree, but master's students also participate. They're doing policy work, and so that's been an exciting new opportunity for master's students just in the last year or so. We have our environmental justice clinic. They also do litigation, but they have a little different angle. They come at it from more of a community lawyering angle. So not sort of swooping in and telling people how to solve their problems, but we're really working collaboratively with the community that's suffering whatever environmental harms there might be. We have an energy clinic, and that is not a litigation clinic. That's more of a transactional clinic, and they work a lot on community solar projects for low-income communities in Vermont and New Hampshire. So, working with these communities from start to finish, getting them through whatever obstacles, is there some jerky neighbor who doesn't want solar panels going up next door to them? That, just working through. I'm sorry, did I refer to jerky neighbors? Who wouldn't want solar panels? Solar panels are awesome. So, that's the kind of work going on at the energy clinic. Our food and agriculture clinic partners with a lot of different nonprofit organizations working on food and ag issues. They've got their legal food hub program. So these are all different kinds of hands-on real world experiences. It's not all somebody's going to court and arguing in front of a judge. It's helping different kinds of clients with different kind of issues. And we're big fans of helping students get that kind of experience. And it's sort of a safe environment in the clinical setting. It's real clients, but it's not quite out in the real world. You've still got faculty and staff attorneys who are there working with you and helping make sure you don't make any grave mistakes. Let's see, also in terms of on-campus hands-on opportunities, we've got our climate justice practicum and our transnational environmental practicum, and that's a brand new one for students interested in international environmental issues. The transnational environmental practicum is an exciting one. They're partnering with different international NGOs working on some real cutting edge issues. I asked a couple of students, it was new this fall, and I said, oh, what are you working on? And they promptly said, we can't talk about it. And they'd obviously had the class about client confidentiality. So that's another one of the hands-on opportunities. And all of these are open to master's students. And it's probably not things that you would participate in your very first semester. You're more likely to do these clinics and practicum things in your second semester or in the summer after you've got a little more coursework and knowledge under your belt. And then we've got externships, and I haven't been reading all the questions in the chat, but I see one sitting there asking about externships and internships, and it's sort of just semantics. Generally, the idea of an externship is that it's something you're doing for academic credit towards your degree, as opposed to an internship that might be something out on your own. You're getting good experience, but you're not getting credit. The idea of an externship is that there's some academic oversight. So in addition to whoever your supervisor is at the organization, you've also got a Vermont Law School faculty member who's supervising you as well. A lot of our master students will do an externship, and there's a lot of help available to students to find an externship. So we don't expect you to just sort of flail around and find it on your own. There's a lot of support available to help you find it. Students do externships all kinds of places. So it could be environmental nonprofits, it could be state or federal environmental agencies, it could be private organizations. You know, obviously it depends somewhat on subject matter. Students interested in energy might do an externship at a public utility. So just a big range. And let me talk about different ways that you might fit an externship into your plan. So again, an externship is probably not something that you would do in your very first semester because you're just focusing on getting some environmental law and policy knowledge under your belt in the first semester. But you might decide that you want to do a part-time externship in the spring along with some classes. Obviously, that needs to be something reasonably local to Vermont Law School if you're still going to be taking classes on campus. But a great thing about being in a small state is that there are a lot of environmental agencies and organizations and opportunities, and students, I think, have more access to those than you might in a huge state like California. I think Vermont is a little more accessible that way. So there are lots of opportunities if you decide you want to pursue something in Vermont part-time while you're also taking classes. You might decide to do an externship in the summer. That's always a tough call because the summer classes are so exciting. So it's hard to choose an externship versus summer classes. And so we offer what we call the fourth semester. So remember, way back at the beginning, I mentioned that you can take up to six additional credits at no extra charge on top of the 30 credits minimum for the degree. And a lot of our residential students will be strategic and they'll get all their classes and requirements done in the fall, spring, and summer. And then they'll save those 6 credits for the very end for the following fall. So we call that the fourth semester. And then they'll go and do an externship out in the world. You're done in Vermont. So if you want to be in Colorado after you graduate, or Washington, D.C., or wherever it is that you want to be, we'll help you line up an externship there, and off you go. And you're still enrolled in school, so your loan payments don't start yet. You can get financial aid to help you with your living expenses. It's a really practical tool. So for some students, it's very attractive that this is a one-year program, August to August, and off you go. But for other students, it's really nice to take that extra semester as a transition from school to the working world, and get some experience and sort of settle yourself in a new place. So that can be an attractive option. With all of these different options, that hopefully I'm overwhelming you with the exciting number of classes and clinics and externships and all of those things. But one thing to know is that you'll get a lot of support and advising and guidance, so that we don't expect you to figure it all out on your own. You'll have your friendly MELP academic advisor to help you. You'll have Monica Collins, who's the master's career services counselor, who will start working with you right from the start. Our faculty are very accessible. So before you ever get here, we'll have academic advising sessions and help you map out your plan and get you registered for classes even before orientation starts. We do that virtually, and we'll meet one-on-one with each of you to map out your plan. And we'll send you over the summer the class schedule and all the course descriptions and faculty bios and degree requirements and all of that fun stuff for you to, if you're somebody who's an advanced planner, which I am myself, and you like to dig into that stuff, you'll get it in July and can start digging around. And then in August, we'll reach out and start having these one-on-one sessions.
Might have lost Anne again.
She did also, her and her husband own a brewery too. That's very close to campus. And
There's a
is
good plug
really-
for that.
It's a really amazing little place they have off grid. I'm gonna, like, while we're waiting for Anne to come back, I want to talk a little bit. There's a few questions.
And
I
actually,
know that-
Katie,
yeah.
sorry, I just want to apologize and introduce Genevieve Nichols, who is also one of our panelists here today. I don't know how I missed you when I was doing the introduction, but apologies. Genevieve has been fielding the questions along with Katie. Genevieve also works as our online admissions counselor and student service advisor. I think I have that down. And yeah, and Anne is back, and I guess we'll go back to you, Anne.
Sorry.
Oh.
No, at least I knew I cut off that time. I wasn't like prattling on with nobody listening to me for a good 5 minutes. Okay, so we talked about classes, hands-on opportunities, the opportunity to sort of extend out and do that fourth semester. Let me talk a little bit about jobs. So I talked about the range of types of externships that our students pursue, and that's really sort of a summary of the type of jobs that students will pursue with a MELP degree. So it's a really broad range. When I talked to Monica Collins, the master's career counselor, a lot, and you know, this is not a cookie cutter type of program where everybody's going to be going off and doing the same kind of job. It's very diverse. You know, if there's 30 students in a MELP class, they're going to be going to 30 different places and doing 30 different things. So often that's going to be in the nonprofit world. So we have MELP grads at some of the big national environmental nonprofits like the Sierra Club, but also, you know, smaller local or regional environmental nonprofit organizations like farm to school type of organizations. One of our MELP grads is right here at the White River Partnership. She's the director of that. And so that's a really small 3-person, really local organization that working on the White River that flows right through our campus. So, and sort of everything in between in terms of environmental nonprofits. We have grads at agencies like EPA or different state environmental protection agencies, the White House Council on Environmental Quality, you know, all different federal and state agencies, and on a local level as well. We have graduates working at land trusts and land conservation organizations. Some in the private sector. Seems to me that that's the private sector jobs tend to be more on the energy side, sort of consulting firms and that kind of thing. And then, you know, to some extent, it's going to depend on your background before coming into the program. So somebody who, for example, majored in environmental science in undergrad, you know, maybe you're going to go in more of a direction looking at positions with the Bureau of Land Management or the Forest Service or something like that, versus somebody who was an English major might go more in an environmental journalism direction. So, so it's really diverse, and there is not like one classic MELP career direction that I could pinpoint because it's all over the place. Let's see, what kind of questions are popping up in the chat?
There is one. Victoria Flowers has a lot of working in the field experience, 20 years tribal environmental programs, and a little questions about when you have been so deep in the field, are these classes new, challenging, cutting edge? And then she worked with Dean Sugagi. Do you know Dean S-U-A?
Dean Swagey, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
Swagey,
goodness, that's
yeah.
a blast from the past.
Yeah.
So, So, like, is the concern, like, are the classes going to be challenging enough or too
Yeah,
challenging?
Victoria, I don't know what your intent was, so you may, if you want to pop it in the chat a little bit, um, maybe along those lines. But I know that
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say the students in the MELP program are coming from a big range of backgrounds, just as they're going in a big range of different directions after they graduate. So we're certainly not expecting anyone to have a specific background from undergrad or career background. So we don't expect that you would have majored in environmental something or other. Some students have and some students haven't. So I mean, coming into law school, that's going to be new to everybody. So in that way, everybody's kind of on equal footing coming in, learning about the law is just a brand new way of thinking about things and talking about things. So I think, yes, it'll absolutely be challenging. Law school, and I think Nasser, who's a grad of the program, and Kelt, who's going to be talking in a bit about his current experience in the program, I'm sure would agree that it's a lot of reading, tons and tons of reading and tons of writing. That's what law school is all about. So that might be a change for somebody who's been working in the field for a long time, switching gears and doing a lot of writing and really learning how to write in a whole different way. Legal writing is its own little beast that you have to learn about. So yeah, it's a different experience. What other questions are coming through?
let's see. Oh, I'm just they've switched on me.
Oh.
Do you happen to know, Anne, the percentage of students that are placed in jobs after graduation from the Master's in Environmental Law and Policy? Because we have several master's programs. I don't know if we kind of track the percentage, like they
we don't do like a pie chart or anything of like percent employed X months after graduation. But I mean,
we can put you in contact with Monica Collins, who is our career service person, and she can definitely talk to you about that. But everybody, as Anne said, they do all such different things. They go into the energy sector,
right.
food and ag. So it's a little different type of program. But we can, I don't know if Genevieve, if you want to put Monica's email in there from career services. Do we have a writing center at VLS? Do you want to talk a little bit about academic success, Anne?
Sure, yeah. So we don't have specifically something called a writing center, as much as writing is a giant part of the program. You've got, you'll be doing a fair amount of writing in your legislation and regulation survey class, and certainly in the communications, advocacy, and leadership class. There's an elective class called legal and policy writing that we really strongly encourage for master's students in the fall. And that one is just for master's students. And that's a great way to focus on your writing and get a lot of individualized feedback on your writing. And then we have our academic success program known as ASP, and they're great. I strongly encourage students to take advantage of the resources of ASP right from the start. I know often students think, oh, that's for people who are struggling or who aren't doing well. Like, I don't, and they're afraid that there's like a stigma or something to using the academic success program. And I think that is absolutely not the case. They have lots of resources. They have faculty that students can meet with. They have academic mentors. These are all students who have taken these classes before. There are definitely a lot of mentors who are focused on environmental issues. And so those are great resources for master's students. So there's a lot of support available. I will say that it's somewhat on, it's on the student to seek it out. It's not like somebody's going to come knocking on your door and say, hello, I'm from Academic Success. Can I help you? I mean, you do need to go and seek it out, but they have lots of resources and they're really super helpful. What else?
Oh,
Keep
I
them
love
coming.
this program. Okay, Lynette, what specifically sets your program apart from other similar graduate programs at other institutions? Boom. we are like the godfather of environmental law. Like we're the people. We offer over 60 courses in almost 60 courses in environmental law and policy. I mean, we're like the go-to people's go-to people. And do you want to talk a little bit? Sorry, we can chat a little bit about that.
No,
And it's the longest environmental policy program in the country, as I believe. We started in 1978. Correct?
Yes, that is true. Yeah, I mean, I think certainly the depth and breadth of the program is a distinguishing factor. We have by far more environmental law classes than any other law school in the country. I think almost twice as many as the next closest competitor. I think, you know, there are some other environmental law master's programs out there, and then there are others that are focused on policy or advocacy or, you know, different angles. So our angle is obviously law and policy. That's the focus, and so, you know, that's something that's different. And then I think something else that makes us stand out is the opportunity to really specialize in different areas in a deep way. You're not just going to get a few classes here and there, but you can really, because it's such a big program, you can really develop specialties.
Thank you.
Any other questions coming through?
Oh, sorry, Nasser, I always do this. Sorry, I'm not running. Nasser, would you like to pass?
Katie, no, you're doing absolutely fine fielding the questions. This is no, you're not doing anything different. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Anne, for everything. Yes. And does anyone have any last minute questions or any questions for Anne before we move on from this part?
I saw the one in the chat. What is Vermont culture like?
Yeah, I mean, Kel, do you want to talk a little bit about like your experience in the MELP program and then touch on Vermont culture? I think you're getting a little idea that we're off grid. We love nature. It's a close community. We're well-rounded. Kel, tell us about you, because then you'll get an idea of the culture.
Sure. Yeah, so hi everybody, my name's Kelt Wilska. I'm a MERL student. I was a MELP, but I switched over to MERL because I really got into energy in my first semester, and VLS really lets you focus in on something that you're interested in. Been having a great time here, learning a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions. I started off, well, before VLS, I spent 5 years, you know, in the professional world, exploring different career options after graduating from college in 2017. I know people, I have friends and classmates in the MELP program who just got out of college. It doesn't matter. Any option works. And yeah, I have some education experience teaching English for a couple of years. I worked in the progressive politics world for a little bit, and then worked for a homeless shelter for a year just before coming to VLS up in South Burlington. Yeah, just a little bit about the vibe of Vermont. What is Vermont culture like? I'll give you an idea. I live in Bethel right now, which is just 15 minutes up the road. I live right up the road from the White River. I go fly fishing all the time when I'm not in class. This is really just an outdoor playground. If you like the outdoors, you're coming to the right place.
I'll add that it also Vermont has an amazing craft beer scene, if that's something that you're interested in. That's a special personal interest of mine, because my husband and I happen to own a tiny brewery just up the road from the law school. But if that's what you're into, Vermont has more breweries per capita than any other state in the country. So while you're in Vermont for a year, the breweries are a great thing to explore.
My culture here is you are really connected to your community, to town meetings, to politics, to government. I mean, everybody here is so well-rounded, and you're on boards in your community. Nasser, for example, works at VLS, but also runs a farmer's market on the weekend. And there's just it's like you're super involved in the area around you. So, and when I moved here, as I moved here from Arizona, I was like, what am I going to do? I've never been so busy. There's always an event, there's always something on campus, there's always a symposium that's always educationally based, and there's always some type of advocate work to get behind. It's a little bit of our culture. I want to go back to a little bit of the academics. Kelt, what are some of your favorite classes that you took, and how was it when we dumped you into your first kind of MELP or MERL class?
Yeah, definitely a learning curve in the first semester, but you have a lot of support coming into a new environment. At least for me, in college I studied comparative literature, did a lot of writing and reading. This is a whole different kind of writing and reading. It's a lot of reading, it's a lot of writing, and I think my favorite classes last semester, I think my favorite class was energy law and policy, which is kind of what led me to jump into the MERL. But really just a holistic exploration of all the different, parts of the energy world, whether you're into, even if you're not into renewable energy, you don't have to be. There's some oil and gas stuff there too. But, I just really loved exploring all the different parts of the energy world. And yeah, and this semester, probably it's a tie between natural resource law and oil and gas law, both really interesting classes about land use. And that really fascinates me.
I want to mention one thing that I forgot to talk about earlier is our field classes. And we have our new Tucholsky Institute for Environmental Field Studies, and we're really proud of the classes that we offer that aren't in the classroom. It's something we've been doing for a long time, and we've just sort of officially organized it into an institute. But the classes include our field ecology class that's right here in Vermont, looking at bogs and wetlands and different ecosystems in Vermont. And then we have a class that looks at public lands management out in Montana, and you're really outdoors. It's like overnight backpacking trips as part of this. That's a summer class. We have a class that goes to Utah, just coming up in a few weeks, going to Utah over spring break, and that also looks at public lands, but also a lot of tribal issues. They visit the Bears Ears National Monument, and an important part of the field classes is that the students aren't just dropping in and looking at what's there, but you're hearing from local leaders and NGOs and activists who are on the ground working on the issues unique to those areas. And so that's exciting for students to get to meet them. So certainly on the Utah trip, they're hearing from a lot of tribal leaders. We have a class that's heading down to Cuba over spring break. That's a super popular class. It looks at energy and ag issues in Cuba. So we've got a class in the summer that goes to China, COVID willing. We're hoping that that'll be able to happen. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to send people there, but hopefully that'll come together. So it's not all grinding away in the classroom. There are some opportunities to get outside and experience the sort of environments that people are hoping to protect.
Kelt, are you going to Cuba?
I'm not, no. Sounds fun though.
It's great. And one thing I have to say is in our programs, we have a lot of international influence, especially in energy, but we have an LLM fellow from Cuba who is assisting in teaching. And then in our environmental justice clinic, we have an LLM, which is an LLM is a postmaster's after a JD, very similar to a MELP. And he is from Tanzania, so there's a lot of influence on campus, international influence. There's a great question, and I think it might have did it disappear. Yeah, you move them too quick for me because I wanted to pose this to Anne. Hold on here. Marina, she has a master's in energy systems engineering degree. Would a MELP complement my degree, or would more of an energy law master's degree be better? And this is one of the classic questions I think Anne gets. Do I want to be broad, or do I want to be narrow? So Anne, I don't know if you want to tackle that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't specifically answer the question of that degree right off the bat, but I would encourage you to reach out to Professor Kevin Jones, and I'll put his contact info in the chat in a second, because he's the director of our energy program and could really talk to you in detail about how your degree that you already have might dovetail with the MELP or with the MERL, the Masters of Energy Regulation and Law that KELT is pursuing. But KELT is a good example of how you can come in one master's program, and if your interests change, it's pretty easy to switch over to a different master's program. So if you came in the fall and were like, well, I'm interested in energy, but I'm not sure if it's the MELP for me or the MERL, the energy degree, then we would set up your fall schedule. So you would be on track for MELP requirements and MERL requirements. So you would be sure to take the energy law and policy class in the fall that's required for the MERL, but you'd also probably take environmental.
I think in that interruption, Anne was saying you could take environmental law in a carbon constrained world, which is the setup class for the environmental pathway. So there is a lot of connectivity and overlap between the curricula between the two different degrees.
I love all our frozen images of Anne, everybody. If you do come to Vermont Law, she is one of the most incredible people on the planet. Yes. And so she's probably right now going, oh my gosh, my internet. I was thinking, do we want to move into a little bit? I know there's some questions about housing. Kelt, do you want to talk about where you live, housing, what it's like? Don't be nervous. You can find housing in Vermont. It's just cyclical. So if you look at our off-campus housing website, there's not a lot there, but it's it usually comes up like mid-March.
Yeah, so I live in a house in Bethel, which is, like I said, it's just like 15 minutes up the road from VLS. I use the VLS housing website to find a couple of great roommates who share a lot of interests. We all love getting outside. And yeah, a lot of students live right in South Royalton as well. If you can find a house there, easy access to the stuff in town, coffee shop, and of course school, going to the library, whatever. But yeah, we all kind of live in the same circle, I guess. And there's plenty of stuff to do around here. If you like skiing, you can go to Killington. Cross country skiing, go to Woodstock. Yeah, there's a lot.
Now we're gonna get to the nitty gritty. How much do you pay in rent?
How much do I pay in rent? Okay, 3 people for a large old farmhouse with a big heating bill. It's $2,500 a month.
Oh, for all 3, and you split it 2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Because like apartments, sometimes you can find for like a studio apartment for around 700, but then sometimes if they're really fancy, they might be 1,000. So it ranges. Average age of student, it's about 26, 28. I don't know, Kel, how old are you? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm 26. I'm the average, I guess. Yeah.
That's residentially online students.
Yeah.
It might be a little because our online students are typically working professionals. Yeah. Now, I was wondering, are there any more questions for Anne? Do you have any thoughts? Because we were going to go into a little application kind of type presentation.
I put my email address in the chat, and so I would be more than happy to hear from any of you who have questions about the academic side of things. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm always happy to chat about the MELP program.
Perfect.
Thank you so much,
right.
Anne.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
And Lynette, we our campus is, I would say, about 26% students of color, and that would include masters and JD students. So it's a combination, and everyone comes from everywhere across the country. 90% of our students are from out of state, and you all have different backgrounds. It's really amazing the uniqueness of every student that comes on campus. We're not like any other law and policy school in the country. It's just a I think the one thing that's shared with all the students is their level of advocacy. Everybody is very mission-based and really wanting to make a difference in our communities and the world. Kelt, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I can speak to just how diverse all of my friends and classmates' interests are. Just they want to do all this different stuff. I don't think they share even one specific career path they want to go down. I have a friend who wants to become like an environmental regulator with the EPA. I have a friend who wants to go into the private sector, do more environmental business stuff. There's just really so much, but the shared quality is that we all want to do something to help the world and especially fight this climate crisis. So it is inspiring to just be chatting with my friends every day and just see what they're up to and what they want to do and what kind of classes they're taking. There's just so many. You can't take them all. I wish I could, but
that's so true, and that is a problem. Everybody, you can't take all our environmental classes, and I've heard that a number of times. This is a great question for you, Kelt. Is the climate competitive at VLS?
no. I mean, like this is very supportive. Like, there's no cutthroat culture here. If you need help, ask for help, and people will give you help. People aren't going to try to backstab you or anything to get a better grade or anything like that. The classes are very small, very collaborative, and don't worry about that.
Thank you so much, Kelt. Does anybody have any more questions about student life or campus in general? Anything about courses before we let Kelt go and get back to probably his busy schedule? We have a question about what walkability is like.
Walkability?
Yes.
If you visit campus is very small. Everything is walkable. Coffee shop, walkable. Laundry, walkable. And the campus itself, like all the school buildings, are just in one square. And it's a small place, but it's homey. It's good.
Yeah, that would actually be one thing I would agree with my experience at VLS. I felt like the first 2 days, I thought South Royalton, like campus was so big, but then you just get so used to it. It's like, oh, everything is just right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. So yeah, Kelt, thank you so much for your time. Have a great night. And we're gonna move on to the next part of our presentation, which is just about the general requirements of attending an application process.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. So just give me 1 second to share my screen. And if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A. And yeah. Go. All right. Can you guys see the PowerPoint? All right. So as before, this is just a general image of the campus in the wintertime. And to transition, I'd like to show you guys the next image. This is another scenic picture of Vermont, specific of the campus itself in the fall. Absolutely gorgeous time of the year. You get to walk hiking, take advantage of that for sure. Any outdoor enthusiasts, you guys will definitely love the views around in Vermont. So just to do a general how and when to apply, you guys can apply online at vermontlaw.edu. When doing that, you guys are going to complete a form. There are going to be sections and questions. If there are going to be sections and questions to respond, if you have any trouble or you need any assistance with that, please get a hold of us. We are always happy to help with any of that. Another thing that you're going to attach with your online application is your resume. There's 3 essays. One is required. And yeah, a transcript from your official degree granting undergraduate or graduate coursework. And then 2 letters of recommendation, but we will take up to 4. And then lastly, further requirements for international applicants. And one thing I'd like to say, and I wish I said this in the beginning, is on March 5th, Saturday from 11 to 12, we're going to be hosting another Master Sessions webinar. We'll be talking about everything in these slides in much more detail. We'll also provide a little bit of hints and tricks of stuff that we've seen in the past, if there's any, and field any questions that you guys have. And of course, we'll address any that you have in this time as well. But yeah, so that was the how to apply. So the tuition, I did see a couple questions, I think, related to that. So it's $42,000 for the 30 credit master's degree. If anyone's interested in the professional certificate, that's $5,400 for the 9 credits that go with that. So for billing and financial aid, you'll use fasa.ed.gov. Financial aid will also be at our future talk on March 5th. So we'll have someone available to help field questions. If you guys have any questions though about this as well, we are happy to connect you with their team on campus. And they're always great about responding and helping you guys out with any concerns you might have. The next point relates to another question that I saw, pace of the program and financial aid eligibility. So pace of the program, someone did ask in the chat about, do you have to complete the program in a year, I believe. So to answer that question, no, you do not. You can start in the fall and go all the way through to the summer and complete it, or you can spend up to 5 years to complete the whole degree. So that, of course, that pace will affect how your financial aid and billing and processing. Genevieve and Katie, if there's anything I'm missing on this, please feel free to chime in. But yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. And if there are any questions, we'll get into that at the end of this. So lastly, I just wanted to give you guys a screen with all of our contact information. And any email addresses. If you guys have any questions, I personally work with residential master students, so I'm happy to call and email, whatever you prefer, to talk about the program and connect you with Anne or anyone else here at campus as well. Genevieve is a great resource for online, and I'm happy to connect you with her if you guys have any questions about that. And yeah, I figure with this slide, I'm just going to go to our last one, which is just another view of campus, and we can start fielding some questions if there are any in the Q&A or in the chat. So yeah.
It really is a beautiful campus. And I just want to talk briefly while you guys are putting in some questions about like if you're interested in a JD Master's in Environmental Policy. Sorry, I have my little portable heater and I turn it on when I'm not on mute, and then that's why there was the fan sound. But so some of our Master's Environmental Law and Policy do go on to get a law degree, and it really depends on what you want to do. I was speaking to a good friend. So she is a lawyer, but she does a lot of work that you don't necessarily need a law degree for. So a lot of master's students will work with her, and what they're doing is creating policy. So when you want to think about being a lawyer is if you want to do litigation. So let's say you create this wonderful piece of legislation, it becomes a law, it's enacted, and then the state doesn't do anything about it. And then you have to sue the state. That's when you want to think about a law degree. Master students that decide to move on just get the law bug. So they might be in environmental law and go, wow, I I want to do this. They might be in legislation regulation, that something might decide, okay, I want to move forward. Then we have master students who are, that's something that they don't want to do. One of my friends is a water expert, and I said, oh, are you going to go on to law school? She said, no. She's like, I think I'd rather be the expert in my field. And so, and she goes, and also then I can kind of tell the judge what I want to say, and I don't have to be necessarily politically on like which side. I can just say, hey, this is what we need to do. But it's pretty interesting. And I know someone asked about a career path, like JAG and then food systems. Very doable. We have students that come and do their JD, and they do a JD, Master's Environmental Law and Policy, and then they might go forward to do JAG, and with that concentration. So that's doable, very doable, actually. I think, sorry, I stole that, but I'm the JD side of things sometimes. So I just wanted to pop that in there. I don't know if I'm seeing any other questions.
Yeah, so this is-
Online is perfect for if you are in your career and you're working full time. That's it. It was established. Genevieve, when did we create the online program? 2011.
Yeah, we're in our 11th year of having an online specific
Yeah.
degree. So
And it's terrific because you'll have lawyers who are obtaining their LLM in environmental law. You'll have working like Victoria. I know that you've been heavy in your career, so that's where you might want to do the online program as far as working and just getting that like additional piece of what's happening now in environmental world. So it's a great, Genevieve is, she knows all our online students, and it's a really wonderful, beautiful community of 140 people at all times. And it's what I love about our online program too, for those of you who are thinking about it, it's the same, like we cross-utilize professors. So they can be teaching residentially, they can also teach online. So you never feel like you're not a part of VLS. Oh, and the summer program. It's a big thing. Online, you might have a little cohort. It's the jewel of environmental education is our summer. These are the top people in the field teaching these courses. So sometimes an online student will come for 2 weeks. It's their vacation. They'll come and take the Farm Bill, or they'll take environmental crimes. So it's a really great like option for students. Oh, we haven't talked about acceptance rate. It's actually pretty reasonable. I usually review the master's students. So if you have a strong academic showing in your undergrad, I usually 3.0 or higher, I'm pretty happy with that. And you put in a solid writing sample, it's pretty strong. I'd have to look at those numbers. But it's a very niche program. So it's really people, they have intention to apply to VLS. So I wouldn't say it's like super competitive in that regard. As long as I see your advocacy and I can see your writing and I can see that you've done well in classes, that's good for me. Genevieve, do you have anything else that you want to add, Nasser?
Nothing that I can think of. I think we did. I think we covered the general MELP overview and cover, and I think along that note, unless there are any other questions that are in the Q&A.
So it's okay to be out of school for 15 years. That's where I would utilize academic success, because you are going to have like a little bit of a learning curve once you're in, but I would definitely utilize academic success to just get yourself retrained in that. And then Genevieve, do you want to talk, the online program is one class usually every seven weeks?
Every 7 weeks. Yep. So that is, we certainly, we're right at 7 o'clock. So I don't want to keep
Oh,
anybody too late if we have so much. There are a lot of prior webinars. You'll see a lot of my face in them specific for the online programming. The online degree really is designed for somebody who has other really pressing responsibilities and obligations, full-time caregiving, full-time professional responsibilities. So the online pacing is different from a residential pacing. It's really one class at a time for those 7 weeks that Katie was talking about. So each student has the opportunity to really focus on that coursework, but not have to set aside the rest of their responsibilities. So that does make it take a little bit longer, about 1.5 years, but that's as expected. And I think earlier we were able to answer the fact that the tuition rate is the same, whether a person is on campus or online. So there is the equity there. I hope that answers most of the question, but definitely contact me directly. Like we've said before, I work pretty exclusively with online students. I'm a curious person, so I know a bunch of things about the residential programming. But yes, certainly contact me directly. I'll input my email here in case we missed it in the presentation that Nasser started. And all of the resources that are available for residential students are fully available for online students too. As with residential, that it takes a little becoming familiar with what is available and who to contact, but you have your enrollment advisor here on campus to really be that liaison, to act as that glue putting people together. So definitely worth exploring online. It's just a whole other set of reasons to study as compared to in person and spending that intensive, great 12-year period here on campus in front of people networking. So there's two really great options. Sorry, mic drop. Apologize.
No, that was great. Thank you so much for touching on that. Yeah, and I guess on that note, we are a little bit past 7.
I want to drop one thing into the chat. Sorry, because it's my favorite thing in the world. It's our environmental law catalog. Oh,
Yeah.
and it's a link to the. I hope it works. It's the link to the brochure. It's broad, and then you guys can see a real detailed list of courses that you can take.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for your time and being with us tonight. This was great. Again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and the team. We'll happily help you the best that we can and connect you with anyone on campus that you need to be connected with. And yeah, and along those notes, have a great night, everybody, and take care.